Always give me this warning. All right, we're live, I think,
Okay,
right?
apparently we're live. Okay, good evening,
Wow.
everybody. I'm Dustin Coiner from TrackDaz here in Southern California. And I'm on again for another episode with Superbike Genius, with the genius himself, Richard Stanboli from Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha Racing Team.
That's right. Brought to you by Attack Performance.
Brought to you
We
by
just leave that last part off.
Oh, dude,
Jason will never ever get that. He barely can get
he can't
fresh
even
and
say Yamaha right. The dude says Yamaha. Like
Jason does?
Yeah. Every time in the broadcast, he calls Yamahas Yamahas.
No, he called me today, but I called him back and he didn't answer. I don't know, maybe I must have butt dialed me. Dude never calls me.
Right on, right on. So, man, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, you guys came off a successful weekend at PittRace, got home and turned around and went right to Buttonwillow for Pirelli test.
Yeah, the got home part was the difficult part.
Yeah,
everything went great. 1 or 2 races. Hurried down the air, put the truck away. Got down to the airport by 5 o'clock, or whatever it was, and of course, we had to visit the Delta Lounge for an hour or so, and then hopped on the plane and sat there for a bit. And all of a sudden, I see a little bit of lightning come out of the crack of the window. I'm like, uh-oh. And so I opened the window, and all the guys were running back into the building. I'm like, oh crap, we're stuck here. So we were there for 2 hours just sitting there. Yeah, they couldn't do anything. Doors are open on the aircraft, and no one's closing them. They're not loading bags. Oh, gosh, shit. So end up missing the connector in Atlanta. Spent the night overnight in Atlanta, and got in basically a little bit before the truck did to get our World Superbike engine ready and put in. We had ordered a new transmission and a shift drum, and that stuff came while we were at PIRC Pittsburgh. So we had to put that in real quick, or I did, while Walker was coming back. Walker and Lee were coming back with the truck, and they came in. We unloaded, put the engine in, got on the dyno. Oh, it shifts good. All right, on the truck we went, and 3 a.m. we're driving up to Buttonwillow.
That explains why you were sleeping in my truck on the way to dinner.
Hey man, when the action's over, I just turn it off.
You did, dude. You're like,
yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it was
your chin in your chest in my passenger seat. I looked over, and you're just like,
yeah. Well, I hadn't slept since Saturday night. What do you expect?
Right.
Saturday night was the last time I was in bed. After that, I was in Atlanta at the airport, waiting for the connector all night long, and then it was straight to an engine and straight to Buttonwillow.
So let's talk about PittRace a little bit,
yeah.
Man. Like track seems pretty cool. It's got some elevation change, but what's the deal with like that temporary curbing stuff?
I'm not a fan of temporary curbing. I remember we had that at Fontana when we did the AMA Nationals there, and because they can slow down the entry, so no one smack the wall on the braking. It's there for a reason. There's no runoff there, you can get. I think the track has got a limited amount of space outside of its yardage there that they own,
right?
Acreage. And so I understand it. They have to slow it down. They can't really do anything else. It'd be nice maybe if they paved a bus stop there, kind of like they did at Brainerd way back in the day, so the guys wouldn't hit the bridge. They put a bus stop type turn right before you would go towards the drag strip. But it'd be nice if they did something different there. I'm not, like I said, not a fan of the curbing. It's easy to get bumped off the curbing. I saw that happen, or bumped out of the way, and then you get a time penalty.
Yeah.
So I think if somebody shoves you out of the way and you get a time penalty, it's kind of a double penalty.
Right.
So you can shove anywhere. I think it happened to Barbara, right? You jumped to start. Yeah. Was it race 2? He jumped to start. I can't remember. It was race 1 or race 2. He jumped to start, and then he got shoved out of the way by Petrucci, maybe. And he took his position, and then he had to go on the other side of the curbing there, and end up getting a time penalty for that. So it's kind of a weird deal. Don't like that curbing.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a Junior Cup guy got all that bent out of shape. I saw Petrucci hit it with his rear tire, and he got all bent out of shape. So, I mean, it just seems kind of strange to have a beautiful racetrack like that, and then they throw down temporary curbings to slow people down.
Yeah, it's for safety. They really should do something more permanent, is my opinion. Never a fan of temporary stuff.
Okay.
I know even at Coda, I think they put down different curbing, like the curbs are removable. I think for the Formula One cars versus sports cars versus motorcycles. So, but that's curbing on the outside of the track,
right?
Not curbing in the middle of the racetrack that you got to use for a chicane.
Yeah. So let's talk about qualifying one. I think this is one of those rare Q sessions where Jake wasn't on top. There was a red flag in the middle of it.
Oh yeah. So we in qualifying one, that we remember. I don't know if you remember being that you have your short-term memory deficit that you banged your head a bunch of times. You know, that's you telling me I don't have short-term memory.
I have no short. I'm like 10-second Tom.
Well, that was about 2 weeks ago, so maybe you can remember. We were trying that Japanese front tire.
Oh, okay.
At Brainerd. It turned out to be at Brainerd. So we said, okay, we're going to give this front tire a little more time. So we decided to use almost all of QP1 to get that front tire working. And yeah, again.
Wow, it's still not up to.
No, we went through the gauntlet of this, that, and settings, blah, 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 trying to make it work. We thought maybe, because, you know, at PIRC, they have those S's there, right? You load the front pretty good. And that's the one track where the Yamaha could potentially chatter. It doesn't chatter hardly anywhere else at all. And so it's possible to get it to chatter in that one spot, a couple spots there at PittRace. And so we're like, yeah, you know what? That steel belted front tire from Japan, that might be the answer to the carcass jump, you know, the flex that you get from a chatter. And yeah, unfortunately, it didn't have the forgiveness to push the front. So Cameron ended up crashing on, I think it was first session. And that put a little bit of a zap on his head as far as getting back up to speed real quick. And then Jake had just about 5 near crashes with the thing too. Like lost the front 5 times in one session. He was like, I'm over that tire. And so that took our guys just a little bit time to get back into the normal tire and get going again.
Okay. Well, that certainly explains why Jake was able to go to Q2 and continue doing Jake things. Yeah.
The first day wasn't all that spiffy thanks to that front tire. But we went on to Q2. Boys got a little bit of sleep that night.
Yeah.
Plugged that stupid tire and then plugged in the new one, and away they went.
Yeah, I mean 39.9.
Was it 9 or 4?
No, 39.344.
3-4, yeah, the 3 new track record.
But he did a 39.9 on the second lap of that tire.
Yes.
Just like, you know, Jake goes out, throws down, and continues to throw down.
Yeah.
And it looked like Cam wasn't that far off.
You got to remember, Jake just came back also from complete destruction of a motorcycle, so he wasn't looking too forward to throwing another one down the road. You know, I mean, we all kind of looked at him sideways. We did, but so I think he came into the mindset of, I'm going to take it a little bit, step at a time. Not easy, but step at a time.
Right. And you know what, man? In qualifying, some of those other guys are doing pretty good too, man. PJ and Banter look legit. Like those BMW guys, they're really going.
You know, it's back to that again. Like our race pace is usually better than our qualifying pace.
Yeah.
You know, so those guys seem to be able to put down a lap in qualifying, but they can't seem to match it for the distance. You know, where I think we're pretty good for the distance runs. Yeah, so struggled a bit with Cameron this last weekend, just getting his rhythm down. It seemed like, you know, he just, once we had that tire thing on Friday, and he had that little small crash. It wasn't even a big deal crash, but I think after that, I can't blame it all on tire. We just never seemed to get into a really great rhythm.
Yeah,
he was really strong in race 1 with Jake, but then fell off pretty quick.
Yeah,
you know, like he went with him on the outlap. I think he was one of the closest guys ever to him on the outlap, like a couple tenths.
Yeah,
across start finish. I mean, he only lost 2 tenths. Normally, it's like a second or more.
Well, it looked like. I mean, I talked about it at the Brainerd event too. Cam seems to. It looks like on TV anyway. It looks like he's kind of struggling for grip on the opening laps.
That was Brainerd. I don't think that was the deal. I think in practice we were working on some stability with the rear and so we're spending a lot of time on the front.
Mm.
Then we changed the spring arm pivot, and we changed a few things, and I actually carried over to Jake. And one of the reasons why Jake went a bit better, because we were working on Cameron's bike, making it more stable, and we copied a lot of that stuff over to Jake's. Like, hey, try this. It seems to work pretty good, and then Jake went a little bit better, a little more comfortably, let's say. Sometimes you got to give up that little bit of edge bite, a little bit of grip to make the bike stable, smooth, so the guy can rear steer.
Okay.
So I'd say we had a little bit of bite, too much bite almost. Okay. Yeah. And Cameron we're still working on Cameron with saving the edge of the tire. So we're still kind of giving up grip at the end of the race with him, but with Jake, it doesn't seem to be any issues because he doesn't use the edge so long like maybe some of the other guys.
So race 1, obviously, Cam starts off pretty good, then Petrucci gets by, and then a red flag, and then another red flag.
Yeah.
And, every time Jake, I mean, I don't know how many starts can you guys get out of a clutch,
20.
I guess.
I mean, the clutch only moved 0.05 millimeters from those three. The initial start, when they kind of do a little practice, right, to go up to the warm-up lap, they'll all do like a little bit of a practice run, and then that start, all the subsequent starts, and the clutch only moved 0.05 millimeters, it's like 0.02 of an inch on the stack height, basically nothing.
Wow.
So how many can we do? As long as the boys are nice to it, they do what they do, we can do all the starts.
Yeah, I mean,
never a worry.
So Jake goes out and just dominates, right? I mean, I don't know why there was the first red flag. I mean, maybe they were just panicked because the guy popped an engine, but it looked like he was clear and out of the way, but maybe it was precautionary.
Yeah, we've had a lot of oil problems.
Yeah, you guys have had a lot of oil problems. So, I mean, it's got to upset the riders.
Not our bike, but I'm just saying in general, the series.
Right. I see where you're going with this, Richard.
No, I'm just saying that's we haven't had too many oil problems ourselves, but there's been a few bikes on the track that have oiled the track pretty good.
For sure. Like, obviously the baggers, and then
yes, those guys.
That Twins Cup dude too, right? Like, yeah. So there's been a few of them, but yeah. So it's probably better to err on safety side for that sort of thing. But it's, from a rider's perspective, it seems like that's got to be pretty jarring to your concentration when you're just getting in your rhythm and then the red flag comes out. I mean, did the boys say anything about it, or? No,
they're real pros, I mean, what can I say? I mean, those guys can do start after start after start. They didn't really, oh my God, I'm not going to get it. Damn it, the red flag, I was getting away. No, I didn't hear any of that. Let's do it again.
Oh man,
like Jake had this smirk, kind of. I asked him how's it going. He's like yeah. We got this. He had this, we got this look.
He's got this, and I'm not saying this in a negative way at all, but he's got a level of cockiness and swagger about him nowadays.
Well, I don't know about cockiness. He's never been that guy, but he does.
No. What I'm just saying, like he's like at that confidence level so high that he's like, yep, I got it.
Well, I mean, he admitted that his to John, not to me, but he admitted that his confidence level was so high at Brainerd and caught him out.
Mm.
Like the first race was so easy. He said that he thought, okay, let's show these boys what's up, and then he showed himself what's up.
Yard sale.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I heard Greg White talking about, they put a brand new bike together for Jake, and they were really relieved that it felt fine after the first session. And I'm like, who's Greg talking to? Every bike we put together feels the same. Like Jake can hop, like with that test, Jake can hop on one bike or the other and do the exact same lap time, no complaints about, that thing's like this, or that one's, the grips are too big. I'm not going to mention any names, but the grips are too big, or the grips are too small, or it just doesn't feel right. And let's change motorcycles, there's something wrong with that. We never hear any of that stuff because the bikes are so good these days. the machining that they do, you know, like are so good that if you put the bike together the exact same way, it's going to feel the same to ride.
Well, I mean, I can remember being at a test earlier in the season, and Jake burned up a clutch in a bike, and you guys just rolled another bike out, and he continued the test. Had to swap transponder numbers. That was the only thing, but he ended up going a string of insane lap times at the test on Cam's bike, right? Like,
That must have been 21.
what?
That must have been 2021.
No, Cam Peterson's bike. Like Cam was
Peterson.
riding the 600 at the moment, and they're like,
Oh, we switched bikes to
right,
600.
swap bodywork, but that's it.
Yeah.
Goes out
I was wondering about the clutch things. I don't remember a clutch thing. It might have been something else. Might have been something else. So we had to switch bikes for a reason, but I don't remember a clutch thing per se. I remember in 20, he was pretty hard on clutches.
Yes.
Because he was dragging them so long. And we burned up a few clutches then, but once he figured out how to let the clutch out, they've been solid.
Yeah, I'm just a timing guy. I just knew that bike was done, and he went back out on it.
Yeah.
And I got weird text messages from Darren, you know, like every time.
Hey, swap transponder.
He's like, hey, swap the transponder. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude?
Well, remember, Darren's in Nova Scotia most of the time.
Yeah.
During these tests. So if he doesn't see it come up on Speed Hive, then he's like, where's the bike?
Yes.
The bike's not on the track, and he's going to text you.
Yeah, the test last week, you guys, Jake didn't complete a full lap at one moment. And he's like, hey, I think your thing's having problems again. I'm like, no, dude, he just went in. Like, he didn't do a lap. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm like, keep your panties on, dude.
Yeah, Darren's as much excited about going racing as, you know, like a teenage boy. He loves going racing. So if he's not getting his info, he's gonna like be jonesing for it.
Yeah. So, you know, race 1, Jake goes and does Jake things in the 5-lap sprint.
Oh, at the very end?
Yeah, what the hell is that? 5-lap sprint? I was like, 5 laps.
Yeah, the rules read, I think you have, if less than 2/3 complete, you got to do the remaining laps to complete the whole race. So the race was 17 laps long, and they went, I think, 2 or 3 laps shy of completing a race, and I think it's because of TV or whatever they had. But that's up to the race director's discretion. Right. And if they went to 5, I think it should have been 8 laps. Yeah, because Jake crossed the line before the red flag was thrown, so it counted his lap. Everybody else would have been a lap down, you know, on the official timing and scoring.
Okay, that makes sense.
When they threw the red flag. So I think he did, I think the race distance was supposed to be 17, and we completed, I think, 14 laps of all the different 14 race laps, not counting warm up, cool down, all that stuff.
Right. But
we had a lot of warm up and cool downs. I mean, it's like 2 laps here, 2 laps there, 2 laps there. We did over race distance on the tires.
Right.
Remember WorldAmerica I think it was WorldAmerica we had that too, where we were going to do like 5 laps over race distance on the tires. And WorldAmerica is a really long track. And, you know, I asked the Dunlop guys, should you guys be asking for a tire swap? Because these things are going to be well over race distance, like quite considerably more of it. They didn't worry about it.
Well, I think the real reason that it was only 5 laps, obviously there was a couple of red flags in there, but the TV time, and so they have a thing in the rule book about the race distance or whatever, that they're supposed to 1/3 and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, it does include language in there about race directions discretion based on I guess schedule time or whatever.
Scheduling, yeah. So that's almost verbatim out of the World Superbike rulebook.
Oh, okay.
It's like an FIM standard basically. I mean, if they go out and they do 2 laps of the race, whatever, it goes down by 1, and so there's like a little countdown. And then if they do under 2/3, and they have to restart. So a 17-lap race, if it's at, let's say right at 2/3, would be a 6-lap restart.
Right.
But we were at we completed 14, so we were at whatever it was, 9 laps or something like that. So we should have done 8 more, but we didn't. We did 5. Whatever, 3 laps wasn't going to change the outcome much.
And the TV.
I think it would have changed the outcome a little bit, though. I'll take that back. because another 3 laps for sure, Matt would have got second place.
Oh, absolutely.
And that would have got us 4 more points in the championship.
I have that in my notes. You know, Matt's last lap charges were insane. Like,
yeah, it seems to be typical of Matt, you know, or that scenario over at Westby. Like they start off strong in the season and they have the doldrums in the middle, you know. The sails aren't pushing the ship very good. And then all of a sudden the wind pops up again for the last 3 rounds. So it seems to be their MO for the last couple of years. So we'll see how we can fix that middle part. But you know, they have Vito from Pirelli doing their electronics now.
right.
He's really experienced. So if anyone can fix them up, it's going to be him. You know, as far as consistency from race to race to race. But Matt's going to be strong, man, for the last 2, without a doubt. In New Jersey last year, he was the only guy. It was like Jake, and then some seconds, and then Matt, and then a bunch of seconds to 3rd place, if you recall.
Yes.
So Matt's going to be right there, and he was only a couple tenths off us in qualifying in New Jersey. And obviously he won one at Barber. I think Cameron won one at Barber, and then we won one at Barber because we crashed out of the first one. And then we kind of poo-pooed the electronics for the second one. It's supposed to be a full downpour wet race, and it turned out to be a little drizzle, you know, and so the bike wouldn't go forward. There was too much power cut. But anyway, back to today.
Right. So the TV guys were talking about how close Petrucci was, but it wasn't really that close. If it was only 5 laps, and he was still over 2 seconds out. So
was it 2 seconds? I don't know.
Like 2 point something. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, 2 seconds and 5 laps is a huge gap.
Right.
You see that in MotoGP after 20 some odd laps. You know, 2 seconds. Yeah.
All right. So we got some questions here. Let's see. Davide says that this guy is great. Just straight up no sugar coating.
Is that me? Is he talking about?
Apparently it's you. Yeah. You don't things.
I'm trying to cut back on the sugar.
And then
sorry for hurt some feelings.
Oh, this guy apparently sent me an email. Rick Crespo, sorry, dude. He wants to know if something about a sensor for a ZX10 from World Superbike. I'll have to dig up my email. Sorry, bro. And then Ken Hill says something about used grips. I guess it was in response to your complaining about the bike commentary.
Grips.
Yes. Used grips.
We had a rider that measured our grips.
Yes.
If you're measuring, hey, just folks, if you're measuring your grips, your focus is all screwed up. You're never going to win a damn thing. Just so you know. You can probably take the grips off our bike and Jake wouldn't know the difference because he's so focused on going forward.
Right.
Not the here and now.
And so let's talk about race 2. Yes. Race 2 was the Jake show. I mean, he was gone.
Yeah.
He's on TV for about 3 laps, and then they catch him at the end crossing the line. And then they talk about the other race happening in the race. The
other race was Petrucci, Cameron, and Matt.
And Matt at the end.
Yeah, Matt was really strong at the end. He ran a softer tire, front tire than we did. I don't know if that was the reason, but it seemed like he was riding a lot smoother, maybe because his hand's still broken. Mm-hmm. I told Chuck to get maybe he should break his other hand.
I mean, the pass that he made.
Matt's usually, like overly aggressive with a bike, and I think that ends up hurting him. But he was riding really smooth. The bike looked better.
Right.
So like I said, maybe he couldn't push on the bars as strong as he normally does.
So Matt's epic pass on lap 12. I'm pretty sure that's what knocked Jake up again on top of the box for the championship.
Yeah, no, I went after that race. I went over and personally thanked every member of that crew.
Yeah,
even the truck driver.
Did Jake buy Matt a beer after that?
Maybe, I don't know.
He should have.
Yeah, he knocked our guy off the podium though, unfortunately.
Oh well, yeah.
Cameron. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it looks like I have it in my notes here too. The opening laps, it looked like Campy struggles for grip at the beginning. Like his bike moves around a ton.
I don't know if that's true, because in the first race start, if you watch it again, he was right there with Jake. He almost collided with him on the start. He was on so strong.
Maybe it's just the way it looks on TV.
I think what happens is they show one episode and that sticks in somebody's head when we're trying to tune the bike. Because they showed this one episode of him in qualifying one, I think it was, and that was before we started to work the rear shock. We're still kind of playing around with that front tire, and so I think that they showed that, but we made the bike substantially better after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that you probably have some data, but I mean, it'd be pretty cool to see. I mean, everybody saw the elevation change in that fast left-hander. I think that's turn one.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Left-hander, it's like downhill, and that's mostly where I saw the movement. But it also could have been
on the brakes,
brakes, and the, getting a little slide action going on.
Right. So you're talking about deceleration, not acceleration.
Correct.
Yeah. So I can probably point to a few things on that.
Yeah.
It's we've set up Cameron's bike to be a little more of a attack bike, I'd say, no pun intended, but more of a bike you can attack on the brakes, because his role has kind of gotten into, he's got a fight with Petrucci, and now probably at the end of the season with Matt Scholtz again. I think we had Matt quite a bit covered, but Matt's kind of found some renewed steam, so we've set up his bike to brake real hard, and whenever you do that, you give up a little bit of grip on the back when you're braking leaned over. So I think that lends itself to that, and we can have another look at that and see if we can make it a little better on corner entry with the downhill braking. So I think that's part of it. It was the same kind of thing that remember Tony Ilias rode our bike last year.
Yeah.
And his bike was pretty sideways going into turn one.
Right.
And because he liked the front so rigid, because he was a hard braker, that it would never absorb any of the energy on the brakes. So the only place the bike had to go was pop the rear tire up and sideways.
Okay.
Yeah, where Jake runs I'd say a little bit less wheel rate in the front. And I think that it's able to absorb some more of the energy on the brakes.
Okay.
So that makes sense to you, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, curious to see, I was at the test too, and I think I told you, it'd be kind of cool to see how much brake pressure, how many bars of pressure is Jake using going in turn one, be curious to see that.
Turn one, what did I say, about 13.5 bar?
Yeah, 13.5 bar.
Yeah. So on the live broadcast for MotoGP and some of the World Superbike, they set their pressure to 0 to 100%, right? And so the teams can determine what 100% is. Like, is it 20 bar? Is it 13 bar? Dorna says 15 bar. About that should be 100%. So you can imagine he's only a bar or so away from what MotoGP guys are braking like.
Right.
So I'm sure, like, you can go and you can just smash the crap out of a stock set of calipers.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're pulling a lot of bar when the bike's really not slowing down.
Right.
Because the pads are smaller and the rotors are a little bit smaller and thinner, and the calipers don't have as much power.
The calipers came up in R6.
Yeah, the same caliper on the R6, the R1, you know what I mean? So it's production caliper. Yeah, you could probably get 18 bar or 19 bar and think you're a hero, but honestly, the bike's not stopping.
Yeah, I actually posted a video, something about this, because I told you that my data showed 17 bar. I was like, man, that's a lot. And then you always find a way to make sure that I get no ego or anything.
Yeah, deflate it.
Yes, okay. Last week I posted an old video from Chuckwalla, and you were out there with Steve Rapp on the Riders Discount Triumph, and
Steve Rapp did ride the Riders Discount.
Yeah, he came and rode it after.
Oh, that's right. When
Slick
decided to get in a fight with the race director, and he took off.
Yeah.
He's like, screw this, and he left the track. And then
Right.
we're standing like a couple of morons going, what do we do now? We had to put, that's right, we had to put time on the engine for the Daytona
Yeah,
200.
so you called Steve, he flew
Called
in. and
Steve,
rode
and he
the thing.
flew in on his private plane,
Yeah,
you know, his own plane, and then he rode the whole day. And then we
right,
hopped in his plane and we took off and went to Palm Springs.
right.
I
So
remember that now.
where I was going with that is I can remember, and I have it on video of me putting this crazy pass. It was like my pass. It was like the move I always made.
Yeah.
So I passed Steve Rapp in the corner, and after the race, Rapper came up to me and was like, "Man, that was a pretty good pass, dude. I didn't see that coming." I was like, "Thanks." You know, it was like made my day. So I come in and tell you what happened, and you're like, "Ah, it wasn't that good on the brakes anyway."
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to deflate your ego. I didn't realize it was that big a deal for you.
But you know, just keep in mind. I mean, you said what 13 and a half,
15 and a half, 14. We've seen pop at 15, 16 on a really hard deal.
Think about that. That's over 200 pounds of
Pressure. Yeah.
Pressure in two fingers.
Well, it's multiply. You got leverage, right? So you got this lever, what's a 19 millimeter or a 17 millimeter pivot with all that leverage stick hanging off it. So you got 10 to 1 or some crap like that, you know?
Oh, we can get
advantage.
really formulaic in that, but that's a lot of pressure in two fingers.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Master produces a lot of power, and the calipers have decent sized pistons, and they push on that pad pretty stinking hard. You know, so yeah, you're right. I mean, see how the better way to envision it is, okay, let's say a Coda. It takes you that long rear straightaway, get to 200 miles an hour. But within maybe what, 20% of the length that straightaway, you go from 200 miles an hour to almost stopped, the left-hand corner.
Right.
So you imagine if you got, let's say a number, 220 horsepower to get down that straightaway, 200 miles an hour. How much horsepower does it take to stop that thing? Negative, negative force. You do the math on that, it's pretty incredible. And those rotors are held with, a couple of 8 millimeter screws. So if you think about it down at a small diameter, you think about the amount of torque that those screws are seeing. I mean, it's a lot of power to stop that motorcycle. So you can imagine how strong those brakes have to be and why those calipers are so thick.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Got a couple more questions coming in.
Yeah.
Bearded Jixer says he asked,
is it a she?
No, I think this is a dude that rides a Gixxer.
Named Bearded Jixer.
Yeah, that's his nickname online. But does Dunlop have anything new coming for MotoAmerica?
Yeah, they have a new front and a new rear.
Okay.
They just didn't release it this year. It's supposed to be, they said January, they were going to have some. We tested them. Remember, we were at that test with Pridmore and Hayes and Gagne. We did that test and we ran through a bunch of tires. And yeah, I think the M4 guys were there too, weren't they? And no, this was a one-day test. We did another test later on where they were there. That's right. And it rained.
Now I'm like, now it all blends together, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of tests. But anyway, so yeah, they have a front tire, which is really good. We're hoping that Japanese front was kind of this, what they were talking about, but it was nothing like it. And Hunter, the one of the engineers there at Dunlop, who's our tire guy, we've been chatting about the tire. And then there was another rear tire that Jake basically said, this seems like cheating. It was that good.
I remember him saying that.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big jump. I think it'll bring it closer to the Pirellis. Right now, I think Pirelli still has an advantage on for sure the front tire. The rear, they have it kind of locked down in World Superbike. I think it's 16.2 bar or something thereabouts. And no, I'm sorry, got that backwards. It's 12 bar, I think it is. But it's like basically 23 psi. And yeah, about like that. So it's 23 psi, and we run the Dunlops down in about 19 or 20. So the reason why they do that is safety. I think they had a failure a few years back, and they mandated that the rear tires can't be let down more than a certain amount. And so the grip is kind of based on how much contact patch you put on the ground. And obviously sometimes the less pressure you have, the more contact patch you have. You know, it makes the top bike a little bit harder to turn or some weirdness. But so anyway, so we're kind of stuck there with the rear, but the front, the pressure is pretty open. So we ran through a big range of numbers when we did that test this last 2 days ago.
Cool.
And it's pretty amazing. I mean, you learned something, right? You've been running really high pressure in your Pirelli for a while.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So Daniel Montgomery says, would you recommend gearing for an R6 for first gear at Barber or any of the other tracks?
Not Barber. Barber, you kind of rolling a lot. There's no real bus stop turns at Barber. I think
you don't go to first gear at Barber.
No, we don't go to first gear at Barber. I have to think. I have to look back, see where the museum turn. But I think even there, we're not really using first gear. It might be somewhere we would, if they pass the World Superbike transmission stuff, then more than likely we will use first at Barber. Yeah.
So I guess at another track where you would use first gear, what kind of?
Yeah, New Jersey, I think you could use first there. But for sure, Laguna, that last turn. Brainerd, there's a couple spots, or at least one spot going to that little funky, you know, another curbing style weirdness.
What kind of gearing would you run on R6 to allow yourself to use first gear, or is the gearing that you're using not determining whether you use first gear or not? The gearings you're using for
no, because if you see most R6s, they're running a gigantic rear sprocket.
Right.
You know, so you would have to gear your whatever first gear corner you have for a good corner entry and exit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that sprocket would get a little bit smaller.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying? So it could be a tooth, could be a couple teeth, depends on the racetrack.
Right.
But if, you know, we ran first gear at Daytona, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You know, we used it there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that look at me funny when I tell them I use first gear a lot, and a lot of club racers club level guys, a lot of them are nervous about going into first gear, and myself included. You know, I basically only do it because you told me to.
Yeah. Well, it's a faster way around, especially on that kind of bike, because you're able to, engine brake is more effective. So the resolution on the throttle is bigger. So you imagine the throttle plate's trying to shut to get you some engine braking. If you're in second gear, the throttle plate can be completely closed to get you enough engine braking to get into that right or left slow corner. That was one of the problems that Matt had on the WorldSBK team for a number of years now. You know, only this year has he started using first gear effectively. You know, last year he tried, but still couldn't get it done. So one of the things we did test at this last test was a first gear lockout device. You know, so we did get a drum that they use basically in World Superbike, and it's legal for World Superbike, not legal for MotoAmerica. And so we not currently legal anyway. So we put that in, and yeah, it's a pretty cool little device. You cannot get it into first if your life depended on it. It's actually a mechanical lock.
Yeah, I mean, I shot a video.
I mean, I say first, I'm in neutral. You can't get a neutral.
I shot a video of Jake messing with your little lever that locks.
Yeah, yeah.
I sent it to MotoAmerica, and they posted it on their YouTube and Instagram and everything. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And we posted it on the team's social as well.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. It looks like a bicycle clincher lever for the.
It's a 50cc choke lock thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's what they use. Actually, Top Rack's bike has the same thing. They just made a simple little aluminum deal. That's the one we have on our bikes, the original plastic piece, which will change out if MotoAmerica adopts the rules. Right. But yeah, it's just a choke lock. It's a lever lock. Pulls a cable. It allows the drum. There's a pin that goes in the side of the drum, and allows the drum to rotate in neutral. Okay. So with a pin down, you can never get it in the neutral, because neutral's on the other side of first. So it starts in neutrals all the way up for reverse shift style, you know, riding, which everybody does. And then it's first, second, third, fourth, all the way through six. So go all the way back to first. There's no neutral in between. So every shift feels like, second to third, or third to second, or whatever. It feels the same.
Yeah, I mean that's the shift drum that guy in Colorado, John McCown, was talking about for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I'm, I know he got one, and I'm curious to see how he's going to make it work.
Does he have a normal ECU?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard because
ECU, but yeah.
Well, because the gear position sensor is so important, and the bike won't know which gear it's in when it's down in second, neutral, and first.
Okay.
And some of the rotation on that star is different than OEM.
Okay.
So I don't know whose drum they got. I'm more than likely it's a Nova drum, because I think they're one of the only guys that sell it. Is not a works piece. It's a available drum. You just call them and order it. And so if he has like a Motec box, which is what VSB uses, then you can program the gear position sensor for each gear. And the Pirelli, we can do the same. That's one of the things we're fiddling around with the first part of the first day. And we end up losing, the colder track, I should say, because the track was freaking boiling.
Yes.
And we were there.
107. Yep.
Yeah, the ambient was 107, but the track was 60 C, over 60 C. So we weren't doing the tires any favors, that's for sure.
No.
Or the mechanics.
Or the rider.
Or the rider.
I was having, I don't know, it was awfully comfortable in the timing and scoring office. But,
yeah, nice and air conditioned.
Yeah. Working from home.
Yeah. Don't tell your boss.
Hey, they don't care where I work, man, as long as I get it done. So, all right. So I hope that answers Daniel Montgomery's gearing questions. All right. Eric Schabel wants to know if this year's pit race data for Jake versus last year, was there any differences, improvements, other than the lap time, obviously?
Yeah, it was a little bit of improvement everywhere. So if you looked at it, it would just be a small jump, because you're comparing him to him. It's only a couple tenths or a few tenths. So we're just looking for small steps, because when you're riding that hard, you don't get a 1 second improvement. You get a tenth here and a tenth there. So sometimes it's hard to see. We did compare Jake's Dunlop times to Pirelli times at Buttonwillow.
Yeah.
And the track was, when we first pulled in, they were doing that construction on the other track.
Right.
And I pulled in, it was a cloud of dirt going over the racetrack that we're supposed to be on. I'm like,
right.
This is not going to be fun.
And yeah, they do send the blower guy out there, but I mean, the construction was happening all day.
Yeah, well, the blower guy, then that Formula car guy that was putting dirt on the track every time he rolled out.
That was a gentleman racer.
Well, he wasn't being very much of a gentleman, getting all the dirt on the racetrack.
Right.
So anyway, that kind of screwed us up the first day. And the next day, no cars showed up, which was nice. They were able to get some laps in that were fairly clean. But yeah, so anyway, we spent the morning getting the gear position sensor and all the transmission stuff kind of sorted. And it, we do the math on the backside before we go there, and then all worked out pretty decent. So it wasn't that much effort. We just had to debug a few things.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the test for the Pirelli. It's like the biggest question is, which one's faster?
You know what though? When I was at PIRC, one of the bagger guys gave me a hat.
What?
He said, well, he didn't give me a hat. He gave it to one of the Yamaha guys that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, and he said, hey, give us the Stanboli. I'd like for him to wear it. And then I brought it back to shop, and I was going to put it on for the show, but then I got the hat, and dude, it's leaking oil. The hat's got oil all over it.
Oh my God.
Look at this thing. I mean, it's completely dripping. I mean, I don't know if maybe they're using this. Maybe they're using the hat for a belly pin.
Oh
it's
man!
Like, look at this thing. It's like dripping with oil. So anyway, I don't know who gave this to me, but I'm going to use some of this Yamaha can, contact cleaner. I'm going to clean some of this oil off of here.
Oh my God!
Look at this. See?
Damn it, dude!
Clean the oil off, because can't wear this thing with all this stuff dripping.
Oh man!
It's kind of like on the racetrack,
Dude.
Maybe the bags are full of hats.
Maybe the backers are full of hats, he says.
Yeah. I gotta wipe this off because it's really freaking oily. I can't put it on like this and just get my forehead all oily.
Oh man.
I already got a shiny chrome dome, you know.
We shop at the same store.
So I'm gonna move this hat now because it smells like oil.
Yeah, dude.
Wipe off my desk here because
Oh,
I'm not into oily desk either.
yeah. Oily keyboard.
No, the keyboard I moved out of the way. See?
Okay. Yeah. Jesus, dude.
It was dripping.
Wow.
I'm glad it didn't mess up the inside of my bag when I brought it here.
Oh my God, dude. Okay.
But this to the rescue. This is a can of contact cleaner from Yamaha.
Yes. Wow, Richard. You're really something tonight, dude.
One of those guys are gonna stab me at one of the races.
Oh man.
I'll be walking through the pit. I'm gonna feel the sharp pain in my back. It's gonna be some dagger.
Oh man, rough. Okay. Got a couple more questions. Arrow J.
Notice that hat was flat bill too.
Hey, you know what?
I don't wear flat bill hats.
There's nothing wrong with the flat bill hats, dude.
Well, you know, there's like two kinds of flat bill. It's the flat bill like this, and then there's the Gomer pile flat bill.
Well, there's the taco one.
Yeah, the Gomer pile ones.
Right.
How did the Gomer pile flat bill become popular? I bet a lot of your viewers don't even know what Gomer pile is.
You're probably right. I mean, you always come up with these rando references.
Well, I mean, you know, I just remember Gomer pile. What's up, Sarge? You know, the stupid hat.
Yeah, man.
The biggest screw up in the whole platoon.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just waiting to see where else you go with this, Richard.
I don't know. Keep on going. I'll go somewhere. I'll go home.
Dude.
Are we over yet? I gotta go home.
Oh, before any other questions, Joe Block wants to know how much for the hat.
Send me a label. I'll send it to you.
Send him a label and he'll send it to you.
It has to go as hazmat though, so the label might be expensive.
Wow.
Because I don't think you can send an open can of oil.
Oh man. All right. So Arrow J Walk, he says, how true is it that Barbara's front bike geometry is always a few millimeters lower than most baseline setups?
Barbara's?
Is it Barber or Barber maybe? Is it Barber?
Oh, Barber, like Barber Racetrack?
Yeah.
Is a few millimeters lower?
That's what he says.
You know, I can't say that's a distinct fact because we've had bikes from all over, you know, geometry wise do well there. It all depends on what rake and trail number we're running. I don't know that the height is, if he's trying to eliminate trail, then you can lower the front and eliminate some trail. You know, some guys maybe feel a little more comfortable climbing up that last couple turns with the front a little bit further down. I think the preference thing more than anything, and how much PSI you're running in the front tire. And like I said, we have adjustable steering head angle. So if you got the thing kicked out quite a bit, you can lower the front. You know, it depends on what kind of offset you have. We have adjustable offset too. So instead of lowering the front, you could kick the offset out and get basically the same kind of thing. But a lot of it's rider preference. And then when you do lower the front, you actually lose some swing arm slope as well.
Oh.
So your anti-squat changes a little bit.
Okay.
You know, so sometimes you lower the front, you got to raise the rear to get your bike back.
Get the Willow Springs stink bug setup.
Yeah, that's the Willow Springs stink bug setup, which the guys can ride only at Willow Springs.
Right.
You remember how there was the Willow Springs specialist? Not the guys, not the national guys who would come there when we were first
like
starting.
Kevin President.
Yeah, those guys would go to the track and they'd be like, I didn't qualify. You know, like, why didn't you qualify? Because I only know how to turn right.
I said Kevin President because he's kind of the guy that he was a co-worker of my dad's at
I'm still wiping oil off my desk, by the way.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know what you're gonna do about that.
Nah, dude, it's right here.
More contact cleaner, I guess.
Yes.
You know, Kevin was a coworker of my dad's, and you know, my dad told him that I was looking at going club racing. The guy's like, come out and hang out, take a look, you know. But Kevin rode this crazy, I mean, his bike, his front end was so low, he couldn't even run the lowers on his R1. I mean, this is back before, you know, obviously this is 98.
Oh.
Before the lowers were mandatory. I think they had them, but they had an exception.
98.
Yeah.
I know that back in the day, the FZR 1000 came with a 27-degree steering head angle.
Mm.
You know, so I remember on my bike, that's the one I raced, I ended up cutting the steering head and turning it back.
Yeah, this is the
like the 25 range. And that made a big difference on that bike because it was so raked out.
This is the first generation R1.
R1, yeah.
He had just gotten it, and he had a rather interesting character tuning his suspension. Dwayne Jones was his name. I don't know if you remember me talking about it, where he would do your suspension and then engrave his name by hand into your fork tubes. So Kevin was running that stuff, and yeah, I mean, he would run the front end so low he couldn't mount the lowers up because they would smash.
We raced the first generation R1.
I know you did.
You know, with the Thriller.
Yeah,
it wasn't so thrilling, but the bike was really cool.
My first race weekend, if you recall.
Yeah, you keep talking about that. Well, I was apparently yelling at him. I don't remember that.
You're like, you will go out in the rain, and you had that crazy eyes, you know.
Maybe. That was 1989, 89, 90. So yeah, that was only a few years after I left the military. So I might have had some crazy eyes back then.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, you will. It was pouring rain, so like you will go out, you know. So yeah. Yeah,
we did a lot of stuff in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that bike. I remember we took some rake out of that bike. And we set, you know, I don't know if it was legal back then. Yeah, it was Formula Extreme. Yeah, so changing the head angle was okay back then. Tires were kind of interesting back then, you know. They didn't have the N-Tech style at the time. Everything would grow. And then we were on 16.5 wheels too. Remember that? Started off 17s and went to 16.5. And then when we got on 16.5, the geometry of the bike had to change. And so yeah, we ended up taking some steering head angle out of that bike, and we set, I think, like 6 or 7 track records with it for Formula Extreme. We were racing Nicky Hayden at the time and Curtis Roberts.
That's right. That's
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Thriller couldn't win a single race, but he got a lot of second places.
Yes. So Brian Green's asking a couple of questions. I'm going to just let the first one go because you already talked about the sort of the test results of the Pirellis. But the second part of his question is, was Jake happy and or impressed? And if you don't mind, I could take that one because I pulled him aside twice and tried to get him to tell me stuff. And he was just like, they're just round black things, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was hard to compare, but he did match his Dunlop times. And like I was saying earlier, we were looking at the what we call the delta between lap times, you know, different. So what do we call that thing? Anyway, so we're looking at the variance. So many damn words running through my head. We're looking at the variance of the lap time, and he was up on himself in the whole first half of the track, all the way to that bus top turn. Oh. And then where we'd lose time is in the dirty part, and where the temperature would be a problem, where you're on the side of the tire for a long time. So Riverside, you know, the big long turn.
Right.
And then was that Phil Hill is what they call that thing?
Yeah, Phil Hill, and then the sweeper through the
Yeah, so he would lose some time in those 3 spots and come up the same at the end. So he was actually a few tenths up on himself in the more technical section, where it was a little bit cleaner because the dirt wasn't quite blowing all over the racetrack on that side, even though the track was scorching. But I was pretty impressed with the Pirellis because they didn't get greasy. You know, the lap time wasn't as good as we would like because the track wasn't right. But when they stayed consistent, like you come in, go out, and be able to do the same lap times.
Yeah.
You know, they would have a drop, but then the drop was fairly consistent after that. The Dunlops do a similar. They do 2 drops. They do one initially, takes a new off it that the first 4 laps, whatever it is. It's like, wow, this thing's really grippy. They would do the first drop, and then about mid-race, would do another drop, and then it would stay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think so.
We did ask him, so where do you think you're losing time? He said, I think everywhere, because I just think, he kept saying, I just think it's the track. And he did say, it feels like these things have a lot more potential. It's just the track. The track is so good.
I mean, part of that is, you know, that there is some positive coming out of that too, because, you know, what you say and where the source of that dirt is the construction that's restarted again on the new track. So, you know, they're all telling me the end of the year. I mean, they're full steam again. So apparently the racetrack got the last couple of permits that the county was sitting on. So
yeah,
you know, now, I mean, you saw how many trucks and tractors. And
oh yeah, they were going at it.
Massive, right?
Yeah, place was one big cloud.
Yes.
Both days. Uh-oh.
Both days.
Yeah, but you know what? We still learned a lot. Like I said, we got all our transmission stuff sorted. We ran the World Superbike fuel, ran the World Superbike Spec engine, just a little bit different than what we're using in MotoAmerica, because the fuel, we can get away with a little more stuff, you know, and so it was a more powerful engine. So we were able to put some time on it, and we brought it back here. We'll be on the dyno again, and we're going to take it apart, look at it, and put it back together before we go to Portimao. So we were able to accomplish quite a bit of things with just time. Even if the track was wet, we probably would have went out and done the laps. But I
know that I think I remember you saying you tested different fork tubes too, right? Like
yeah, we went through a gauntlet of stuff. You know, the Öhlins forks that we're running now have a thinner wall fork tube.
Okay.
And so they give the rider a certain amount of feel, which is important for the Dunlops. But we said, okay, why don't we go back to the thick wall tubes and see if how it relates to the Pirelli. And we're still kind of biased towards the thin wall tubes, but that's at that track.
Right.
So we'll bring those with us too to Portimao, just have in our back pocket. If we need a little stiffness dropping down to turn 1, you know, Portimao, then we'll maybe have that. We can throw that in there without changing all the damping. You know, so it seems like the thin wall tubes get the thumbs up, and the thick wall tubes will probably get parked. You know, so yeah, we did try that, and yeah, Jake's feedback's got a lot better since 2020. You know, in 2020 it was just getting off the BMW, getting off that injury with his ankle, and really getting it, finding his own. But now he's like pretty good information. You do a little bit of change. One of the things it was interesting about the Pirelli is the range of pressures.
Yeah.
So we couldn't do too much on the rear, but the front, we ran that thing from 31 all the way to 40. Testing pressures all the way, and the tire would actually work at all those variations. It's just you give up grip, but you gain some turning at the 40 psi level, and it gets a little bit harder to turn at the 31 psi, but you gain some grip. So you got quite a bit of tunability in that window, which you couldn't do with the Dunlop. You couldn't run 31 with a Dunlop. The guy would come in and say tire's flat.
I mean, I run, you know, between 36 and 38. I've never seen 31 on the front before.
They're running less than that World Superbike.
Really?
Yeah, I got the notes from YME. I can't share them, but I got some basic notes of like what Garrett's using and what number 2 guy there, Locatelli, is using, and I was pretty not shocked, but I was like, wow, they go there with the pressures. So they can go quite even lower than that with the front. And I think they're just really looking for front grip on the edge. Those guys ride the crap out of that front tire. And that's one of the things I think I think maybe you mentioned it before it came on about somebody poo-pooing Jake's ability. You know, he had to ride differently. And
he's going to have to change the way he rides. You know, there's a couple of guys I have talked to that were kind of shitting on Jake's talent. And they're like,
yeah, he's so slow.
He's gonna get ruined. And
yeah, they've chucked a World Superbike winner at us. They've chucked a MotoGP winner at us. Jake sucks so bad that he's stomping both those guys.
Right. He's gonna have to relearn how to ride because
does the guy know any history? Like, Jake's been to World Superbike before, right? And he finished top 10 with a Honda.
Right.
The old Honda.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it was a good bike for what it was. What's that?
I said even Nikki Hayden couldn't do shit on that Honda.
Well, Jake got a top 10. I think that was he did like a half a season, then the full season, I do believe.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, top 10 with a Honda is pretty good. I'll be curious to see what he does. I mean, we're going there with our bike, with our crew, and all things gonna be different. He already knows the track, but honestly, I mean, we gave Petrucci a 4-hour head start at PiRace, right? Didn't he have a 4-hour head start?
Elaborate on that.
Well, apparently they were allowed to do an endurance race.
Right.
I mean, less than 30 days out. As a matter of fact, the very prior weekend they did an endurance race.
Right.
So he got a 4-hour endurance race head start.
Yeah,
his teammate did too. The guy we won't mention.
There's a.
And he still got beat by the kid on the R6.
There's a bunch of racers that race with us with the CRA, and they were like, "Hey, could you do a 4-hour at Laguna the weekend before?"
No, I had my plan. Hey, you want to hear my plan?
What's your plan?
If they don't change that rule, I'm going to have the Attack Performance Endurance Challenge. It's going to be every Tuesday before the main event. We'll have a 4-hour race. And actually, it's going to be a 6-hour.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's mandatory half-hour stop to drink water, refuel, change tires, and download data and maybe make suspension changes. So every hour is a mandatory half-hour stop. And then we'll go and race for another hour. You can stop anytime you want, actually. But, it's up to you. You won't win the endurance challenge. So we're going to do that every Tuesday before every national.
There you go. There you go.
And you have to have a spec bike. So all the bikes will be the same. They'll all be Attack Performance Superbikes.
Oh, well, then that's the rules.
That's the rules. I'm going to text everyone the rules.
There you go.
The rule book will be like 3 lines of text. You must have an Attack Performance Superbike available in November. Okay. And then you must stop every hour for a half hour for downloading and drinks. And
this is gonna go super great with the Bucky's 200.
Because apparently, you could race up to whatever it was, 7 days if it's a sanctioned AMA event. But endurance racing is exempt. It doesn't have to be sanctioned by the AMA. So we don't even have to have a sanction thing. You know who's going to run this thing for me?
Me.
You.
Damn it! I knew it. I knew that was coming. Wow.
We call it CRA Pro.
Oh man, dude, you're gonna get me in so much trouble.
It's a great idea. It's completely legal.
Like I said,
it's completely legal. You know what? At the end of the day, we don't need a 4-hour head start.
Right. I kind of figured that's where you were going with that. But
it's a great idea. I think we test, right? We test like 4 or 5 times out of the year.
Right.
And we spend money going to test and all that stuff. How about if we go test at where we're going to race later that week? Oh, did I say test? I mean, go do an endurance race.
There you go. Yeah.
We're going to go do an endurance race. We're not going to be testing anything. We're going to be racing a non-sanctioned event because it's exempt.
So I do have it in my notes.
Honestly, I think that if you're a pro racer, you should be able to show up. You don't need a stinking 4-hour endurance race and win races. If you're a pro.
Right. Well, I have a couple more questions from people tuning in.
Yes.
But I also have a couple of notes. So
okay. I
wanted to kind of get your take on some of the other classes.
Was I ranting?
No. I think it's hilarious. I think it was great to have 2 stock 1,000 races at PittRace. Seems more appropriate for that. And I think there was a couple of Twins Cup races as well. So it just seemed, what do you think about that being part of the regular schedule instead of just giving those guys 1 race?
Dude, I know this sounds awful, but I didn't even know there was 2 stock 1,000 races.
Do what?
I said, I know this sounds awful, but I didn't even know there was 2 stock 1,000 races.
Oh shit. Okay.
You know what I do is I get the schedule, I highlight where we are. Okay, we show up at 10:25. Next up is 3 o'clock or whatever. Next day is 10:25. Next up is 2 something for the race. Next day is like 10:05, and I focus on that. Everything else in between, I have not a clue. Because the whole time between, we're in there looking at data, talking to the riders. Where'd the rider go? Where'd the rider go? Yeah, there he is. Hey, come here. I want to show you this. And we compare data, and then, oh, we got a half hour to go. We grab our computers and stuff and go out the pit wall. That's where our days go. Stock 1,000 races? Yes, there were races.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but that's hey, if they get to race twice, I don't get, because most of the stock 1,000 or some of the top stock 1,000 guys are also in Superbike Cup, right?
Right.
So that makes 3 races for them, 4 races through the weekend.
Right.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
One of those guys just ditch stock 1,000 and take the money they're spending racing 4 races and race a real Superbike.
Wow, that's
spend those thousands of dollars that they spend on tires, on forks and brakes and all that kind of cool stuff that'll last them 4 or 5 years.
Right.
You know, because when we're debating, you know, we have that SBKC, right?
Yes.
So in the SBKC, we make recommendations.
Can you talk about what the SBKC is again?
Superbike Council.
Okay.
So MotoAmerica would get, you know, when it came rules time, like it is this time around, they would get the loudest voice screaming at them about how they needed to do this, and this. And generally it was 1 or 2 teams. And being that I'm a passive, mellow dude, I never go over and yell at Chuck Axelin about anything. You know, so he doesn't hear much from us. Then, yeah, I don't know, we don't agree with that. You know, that kind of thing. And then they go make their rules. So the SBKC got all the premier team owners together, and we look at whatever was proposed for rules, and then we voted on it, like the World Superbike transmission rule, along with a shift drum, and I think the clutch basket thing. We all voted to get closer parity to World Superbike, and it was basically 2 to 1 was 4. There was 4 teams, or it was 4 teams that said no. No, 4 riders said no, I think it was, and 8 riders said yes, which is, you know, or it was, whichever way it was like 2 to 1, like 12 to 6, and it was 12 to 6 or 8 to 4. If you look at it by teams or by the amount of riders each team has.
Right.
We're pro World Superbike rules, and the other guys were con. I mean, World Superbike rules. So then we passed that along with the vote, and who voted which way to MotoAmerica, and they can absorb that any way they want. That went to the rules guys, and then they asked us some more questions about, like one of the questions they asked was, so you guys are asking for a smaller tire allocation through the weekend, which is the case, but you're asking for a transmission. So why is a smaller tire allocation save you money versus transmission, which is going to cost more money? Sounds like contradicting. Then we got to go back with, no, not really, because the transmission will last you multiple seasons. The tires last you 1 session.
Right.
They last you 1 session. They cost $350 or whatever, right? You know how many transmissions you could buy if you were able to cut back on your tire usage? So, and then also, I mean, you'd be shocked at how many 5-lap tires we throw out at the end of the weekend because of qualifying and this, that. You're not going to put it on in a race session, right? And then sometimes you don't want to use it in morning warm-up because the other guy's got a brand new tire. So if you cut back the allocation, then the guys with the used tires have to use them in morning warm-up. So morning warm-up won't be a competition, you know, where you have to burn a brand new set of tires. So it'll save everyone a little bit of money. So that's the SBKC. That's what we do.
Okay. Well, here's a couple questions. Corey Zorn, do you anticipate any changes to the MotoAmerica schedule next year? Any new tracks?
I don't know. I know they're building a track somewhere in the Midwest that's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know when that's going to come online. I don't foresee them adopting any more new tracks, and I don't foresee them ditching Brainerd. There might be a 1 or 2 that might fall off because of conflicts. That's always been happening. AMA times that same thing happened where they couldn't get a particular track, or they run into some conflict with a certain track. Like I remember when they had the big Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
And it rained out all the way to Virginia. We left our truck there. and there was a complete cancellation afterwards. And Virginia VIR lost their minds. And I think there's been a love-hate relationship with them ever since. Not saying VIR is one that go by the wayside, but we had a pretty good turnout there. So hopefully that one doesn't go, but that's just one that came to mind back in the day. And I remember Willow Springs.
Yeah.
9/11 happened the weekend of a national, and those Hoots, they hated the AMA ever since because they had to pull the plug, even though all flights were canceled and there was F-16s flying around LAX. And downtown Los Angeles with missiles.
Right.
It's like we're at war. And Willow Springs was all upset because they canceled the national. Pridmore was, I think, stuck in the East Coast, had to drive back. And my suspension guy was stuck in Canada. All flights were locked. So there's certain things that happen, but these guys get all pissed off and then they don't want you back.
Right.
Like the Hoots don't want you back.
Well, for different reasons, they're allergic to making money. Yeah, I said it. I don't care. This is the show, right? We could
what it is.
Right?
They hate you.
Dude, it's so weird. I don't know. I have this thing where I get thrown out every 10 years from somewhere. So,
If you get thrown out of Buttonwillow, you're gonna have to move to another country.
I don't think I'll get thrown out of Buttonwillow, but hey,
anything's possible.
Yeah, that's not trying, but yeah, okay. Matthew McCumber wants to know, do you wish you raced on Pirellis instead of Dunlops in MotoAmerica? You knew that was coming.
No, not really. Everyone's on the same tires, so it doesn't make any difference to me. I think that both of them have their positives, both of them have their negatives. I wish that we had spec tires, but multiple manufacturers.
Right.
So I wish that Michelin was there. I wish Bridgestone was there. I wish Pirelli was there. I wish Dunlop was there. And they all had a spec they would introduce either at the beginning of the season. Can't forget Continental. Yeah, they haven't really been involved in motorcycle racing that I could remember in my lifetime. Maybe way back.
Somebody told me, who was it? Somebody told me they were at a race somewhere back east, and they were like, the local guys there were like, oh, you got to talk to the Conti guy, I think I might remember those guys having some tires, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but if you get the big, I don't know, 4 or 5 manufacturers, Bridgestone, Michelin, Pirelli, Dunlop, and I don't know who else. And it might grow the grids too, right? It for sure will, because from the mid 90s all the way until when DMG took over, I didn't buy a single tire. And now our tire bill is pretty big. Every weekend we're buying thousands of dollars in tires. It's the Spec tire series. What percentage of your annual race budget goes to tires? I don't know. I can't tell you a percentage though, right? Well, we destroyed a whole Superbike last round. It cost about 150 grand. So that would lower the percentage of tires. Under normal circumstances, it's about like 8 grand a week. Riders about 6 or 7 grand a weekend, something like that. 2 riders, maybe a little more. Depends on how many we use, how many stickers we burn. We burned more this last time because we kept trying to make that stupid front tire work. So with every front tire, we had to put a rear tire, and that's the balance is right. We're down almost. We use, I think, all of our decals. Oh wow! All of our stickers, yeah, with the exception of one. So we're at 16. I think 16 stickers, 16 or 17. So we bought 34 tires across 2 guys. Okay. Which it's interesting because in World Superbike, the Pirelli is 5,000 euros per round for a wild card. It's 24 tires. Oh. So it's kind of comparable. Yeah. Or maybe even cheaper. Yeah, if you do the math on it. So 5,000 euros for 24 tires. Euro is almost 1-to-1 now with $1. So it's and then. But at World Superbike, you pay for the tires up front. So it's 5,000 euro, boom, you're done.
I can't remember what it was for the year. I think if you buy the whole year, it's a little bit cheaper, like 60,000 euro for the whole year. But you get 24 tires every single weekend. You burn all of them. You don't get a discount on if you don't use it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, where in this series, you pay as you go. If you use one tire the whole weekend, you get charged for one. If you use all 16 of them or whatever, you get charged for 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so I don't know if that answers any questions, but there you go.
Yeah, that totally answers the question.
Yeah, I would love to have multiple tires in the series. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I would love to have multiple tires, all with a spec, and then you get either sponsored by that tire company and pay nothing, or if you have to buy, you can buy from whichever vendor is going to be the fastest at that track.
Which tire works per track? Yeah, that'd be
per track. You could be on Pirelli's one weekend, you could be on Dunlop's. You could put a Pirelli front, a Dunlop rear on there.
Oh, like road racing kind of.
Yeah, depends on contingency, right? You know, there's going to be contingency because those guys want you to ride their tires. All that stuff goes up.
Oh,
for the teams, and the cost goes down.
All right, so Pita Rossi Pereira. I'm sorry, bro, if that's your real name. He says he's heard that from two different crew chiefs in the MotoAmerica paddock that the stock R1 runs better with a shorter swing arm length. Another saying it should be as long as possible. What do you think? I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, he should look at that video from Top Rack Spike. Paul Denning does a little video on those front to back and Top Rack Spikes, an interview, and he talks about the length of the swing arm, and it is considerably longer than stock.
Right.
And the bike always works better with a longer swing arm. I'm not sure what crew chiefs he's talking to. They don't know anything about R1s.
Boom.
You know, they know zero about R1s.
Yeah, there you go.
The longer swing arm, you know, the 2020 and up, they got that little rib in the back.
Longer, and then
just get your file out. Yeah, spend it all night filing away at that thing and knock that sucker out of there, and move that thing all the way back.
I'm probably gonna have to bring another swing arm to you for that service.
and then you'll be amazed how much better your R1 is. We've actually tried short swing arm and long swing. As tire technology gets better, and I think Paul Denning talks about this, the ability for the tire to grip on its own versus applying mechanical grip to it is so good that it's better to have the bike with less wheelie, because short bikes wheelie more. And we've never seen a problem with the thing turning, but it's better to have the anti-wheelie and the nice smooth slides coming off corners, so you can rear steer the bike. So as the grip goes up, you're going to want more stability and better anti-wheelie. So all that stuff's a plus with a long swing arm.
All right, so Knutson says, you know, this is like a regular commenter on our
I remember his name.
Show, whatever you want to call this thing. He says the last wild card for Attack was tire management an issue or rider that shall not be named. It seemed
no, there was one before. There was one after that.
Wait, it seemed the race pace couldn't be maintained for the full race. Is that tire management a major concern?
Well, the tire management comes in with electronics. He's referring to 2018.
Probably.
Where we qualified decent. We had some good runs when the tire was new. I think that was Heron. He set the track record on the Dunlops that still hasn't been beat with the real Qs. 22.9, I think it went. I think Cam Bobia did a 23.1. And he was very close to the same on the Pirellis. The problem was that the feedback that Heron gave at the time wasn't all that great. Feedback that Heron gives anytime is not all that great. You know, he's not a feedback guy. He just rides the bike, you know, and then he measures the grips. So those are the two things he's good at. The first part, the last part, measuring grips, he's better at that than riding the motorcycle. But anyway, he called you a keyboard warrior, by the way.
Okay.
Anyway, so back to his question. At that time, we were running a lot of power in the bike, because Heron wanted to feel the power. Whenever we try to introduce another software that did a lot of torque management, he didn't like it. He was like, take it out. I'm going slow. I don't feel the power. I need the power. And so, yes, there was no tire management going on at that time. It was like doing a qualifying lap, burn the tire off the rim and call it a day. So yes, he killed the tire going in the corner and he killed it coming out. And so there was nothing left. Plus, which we learned in 2021, was his riding style is one way. And he can't adjust his riding style. He doesn't do the pick it up off the edge and conserve the tire thing that Jake does. His style is long arcs and open throttle with a bike on the side of the tire, which is great for a qualifying tire. And you can see where you can do that 22.9. When you have all that grip and you're opening the throttle on the edge of the tire, you're going to get a good lap time. But then try to replicate that. And even 21 at Laguna, he was the fastest guy on the racetrack for the first 2 laps, if you recall.
Right.
And then after the tire lost grip, he couldn't do anything with it. And we turned that bike inside out, sideways, trying to get him that edge grip that he wanted. But it wasn't possible. He could do the same lap times as 18, but couldn't do those lap times. It couldn't do any better like what you needed in 2021. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we're trying to conserve the tire with all the electronics, cutting back the torque, adding lots of traction control. And it was a game of there's too much traction control, there's not enough traction control. It was always that fine line window. Like, I don't feel power, I need more power. Oh, the tire's got no grip. So, and it all boils down to how the rider conserves the tire, which is kind of correct with what your guy is saying. But that also adds to what the rider's asking for. If he's asking for a lot of power on the edge of the tire all the time, because that's what he wants to feel, it's hard to get him to conserve the tire.
And in 2019, when JD did the World Superbike thing, didn't he get knocked down and he was kind of hurt?
Yeah, he was still. JD was just learning the Pirellis. He hadn't ridden them before, and he got knocked down and he got hurt. Yeah, he was it a collarbone or shoulder? I think it.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Estenson was. Yeah, he was riding the flat tracker at the same time, and so it kind of messed up his flat tracking a little bit, and those guys were kind of upset.
Yeah.
This is a wild card. We did a wild card, and really you're supposed to just race MotoAmerica.
Right.
So he went out and he got run into by what the hell was that dude's name? He raced MotoAmerica that next year, I do believe. No. He raced.
Zanetti.
Zanetti, I think it was Zanetti, right? Ran in the back of him, knocked him down the corkscrew.
Yeah. And
I've never seen JD so upset, man. He threw his helmet down and
he was kind of pissed. He was mad.
Oh, remember he came in the garage and he basically did the smashed the helmet on the ground, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? JD's usually pretty mellow. He was really upset. But yeah. So that didn't end very well that weekend. But so tire management, yes. Rider throttle management, yes.
So Carbon Smith says, do you have any new R6s for sale? Asking for a friend. I believe the answer to that question is yes, right, Richard?
We have a handful left, less than a handful, I think.
Yeah, I think last I heard there was 3 left, right?
Yeah, I think we sold another one this week.
Okay. We're
just doing them out as guys ask for them, because Rocco Landers is making R6s great again.
I was gonna say, that super sport class, it started to look like the R6 was way outclassed, but Rocco somehow found something. And I know there was some drama there because there was a protest or whatever, of course.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that protest.
If he's winning, right?
Let's talk about that protest. Apparently some MotoAmerica commentator or media guy or something like that said that, because we are the YEC distributors for the country. Right. So we work together with Yamaha for the YEC parts, right? So this MotoAmerica dude brings up, hey, so how do we know that Richard isn't spiking the punch, basically, like giving us like cams that are illegal so Rocco can be legal? I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well,
first of all, let me back up. Rocco didn't buy his cams from us, but I'm pretty sure they're YEC cams. Second of all, if we worked with Japan to develop a camshaft, let's say, then that becomes the spec. right? It'd be a dash 71. It's just for instance, we're not, but just a for instance, you know, a hypothetical. So whatever that dude's talking about, he's got his head up as you know what. Just saying, as they say.
Just saying.
I hate that statement.
Didn't I tell you what was the answer? What was the comeback to just saying?
Oh, I just heard that. I just heard that from somebody that was brought up that hey, maybe you know, we're pumping out some illegal camshafts. And I'm like, any camshaft we pump out is legal.
Wow.
Because that becomes a new spec.
Yeah, so I guess
weird.
I can't remember what else they wanted to see, but whatever else it was legal, and then I guess they needed.
Yeah, I sent a couple cams off the Teague so you can measure them and put them on his machine and measure the curve and all that stuff.
Rocco is riding the wheels off of that thing. That's period.
No camshaft is going to do what Rocco's doing. Period.
No.
You know, the difference in the camshaft isn't going to be that. Isn't going to go. You know how that I can already hear the conversation in my head, right? So Heron gets beat by Landers at Brainerd by a lot, and he says there's no way that thing is effing legal, right? Then he gets beat again the second race. I'm telling you that thing is not legal. So his team owner Bobby goes, that thing can't be legal. So the very next weekend he gets beat again. He's like, and then they're like, screw that, we're going to protest it. I guarantee. And then, you know, of course, Heron goes and tells Tom, it wasn't me. I didn't file the protest because Tom's a fan of Rocco's.
Right.
He's been kind of, you know, mentoring him and bringing him up. What, Rocco's like 17 now or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, Tom likes to help the younger guys out. And so anyway, so that's the way the conversation goes, the back end, the true story, whatever you want to call it.
And then how
I could hear that conversation in my head, you know, because I've heard similar stuff. Like we were at on 2018 when that guy who I'll mention again because you're a keyboard warrior rode our Superbike he was having a really good run on our Superbike. Like we kept getting seconds and we won a couple, right? And Cameron Bobier was riding the factory bike, and so we go to Sonoma, and Cameron does this ridiculous lap time, and we're qualified second to him. And he came in, told me the same thing. There's no way that thing is legal. He's cheating. I go, at Sonoma? I go, what can you possibly do at Sonoma? You can't even cut the track there. That's going to equivalent cheating, you know, to raise the level of cheating. All you're doing is cutting power all around that racetrack. There's nothing that's going to give you a half a second or a second. That's just Cameron Bobier doing what Cameron Bobier did at the time. You know, so anyway, I envisioned that conversation in my head. And I go, that's why Rocco was getting protested. Because sore loser.
Well, I guess I won't bother bringing up the taking a piss on the pre-race.
No, the guy's a class act. What can I say?
I won't even bother bringing that up.
Yeah, I won't mention it. Whatever.
Okay, so
Steve Crevier apparently used to piss his leathers in the middle of the race.
Oh yeah,
that's what I heard. I'm hoping I'm saying the right rider.
I've heard some cyclists do that, like during their, you know, pro tour, just whatever. You don't have time to pee.
You think that would make some chafing thing going on?
Yeah, man, you'd think.
Sounds weird.
Again, triathletes come right out of the ocean and go right out, you know.
Yeah, that's true. They do. They give it their all. That's for sure. Yeah.
So, okay.
You did that once, right?
What?
You did that once.
Yeah, I ran a triathlon. I did a triathlon and a marathon. That was dope.
Where did you finish?
The cycling part was pretty good, but then the swimming part, not so much.
Not so much.
But then again, Jacob West taught me how to swim 2 months before.
Yeah, that's pretty good. For you to do that with no swimming experience is pretty good.
Yeah, like not knowing how to swim 2 months before signing up for this stupid thing, and then having to swim a mile in the ocean.
Yeah, so that was your bucket list. Luckily, it wasn't the last item on your bucket list.
No. That was 2010.
Yeah, I remember your preference that.
Yeah. The triathlon was actually way more fun than the marathon. That sucks. Like the last 3 miles, like every step. Like never.
I hate running.
Yeah. Hate running. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Matthew McComber again. Do you guys talk to Garrett Gerloff at all with setup tips, or you maybe can't say?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We're pretty detached from Yamaha Europe, other than, I mean, with those riders,
Okay.
other than the occasional conversations we have with their boss, you know, and their parts guy, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So nice bunch of guys, as far as I know. I mean, I spoke with Garrett once when he first got on that team. He was talking about how gentle the power delivery is on that bike, and I said, dude, you got to ride like a 600. You got to whack that throttle open. I go, it's not the YMUS bike where it had all that power at the hand. You know, this is more of a sophisticated electronics, you know, oriented motorcycle. You got to ride it differently. And that's the only conversation I've had with him.
Right.
Since.
Right. And then Be Real, and he has 2 R's in the name, so it's Be Real, like a pirate or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, real. He's curious about the wheels in comparison to the tires. Like how often do you guys like change out the wheels?
We change out the wheels every time the grippy stuff on the inside edge goes away.
Okay.
Because then their tires rotate, and that's a performance problem. Or when they get bent. And sometimes when they get bent, you just get a wobble on them, because Jake loves to jump curbing and he loves to bend wheels when he does that. He'll finish their qualifying and the wheel will be wobbling just a little bit. We'll send it to Dr. John's if it's got good grip on it, and he'll tune it up.
Okay.
He does a good job too.
Hey, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Fixing parts. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about World Superbike. Just a heads up, everybody. I think Attack's gonna do another shirt. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, World Superbike Edition.
World Superbike Edition shirt.
We did the Daytona thing that went down pretty decent, you know?
Yeah.
And we're gonna now do a World Superbike Edition, which hopefully get the sign off from WSBK to they like it, we can sell it.
Well, here's what it looks like so far, in case anybody's wondering. So you too will be able to purchase said shirt pretty soon. Something similar to this layout.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah. Notice something, a couple of weird things about this shirt. There's a CRA logo on, like that on
the shoulder.
Yeah, look at that.
Because one of your founders is actually one of our sponsors for this event.
Nice.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nice of him. He basically, I mean, just because he's an enthusiast, it wasn't like, hey, you know, you're going to do this for me for this much money. No negotiation. He called. You know, he was bugging you actually, like, hey man, I really want to help.
Yeah.
And then our conversation went like this. Yeah, I hear you want to help. Yeah, I want to help. I want to go there too, make a little vacation out of it. Oh yeah, he goes, I don't want to insult you. How much do you want? I go, I don't care, whatever you want to pay. I want to pay this much. Okay, cool, done. That was our conversation.
I wish all sponsor meetings were like that.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, send me a bill. Here's your bill. Here's your check. Thanks. Right. See you in Portimao.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I guess the CRA logo also is on the bike, right?
Yes.
That's super cool, man. Like brand
new.
Yeah,
send me the artwork though, because I gotta have Owen make some decals.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm already getting text messages about sending a link to order.
It'll be coming soon.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should have it up on the website at some point, hopefully. In the
next get a delivery date, but obviously we need our shirts before Portimao.
Well, yeah.
Well before.
Yeah, so I think we'll do some sort of pre-order like last time, where it'll be, you know, we'll take orders for X number of days, and then boom, we're gonna order.
Yeah, order the stuff. Yeah.
Yep. So when that pre-order comes on, make sure you get in there, and I mean, even if you can't figure out how to work the website, call Joseph at the shop.
You get your name on the
love
list
to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The last time we were boxing up shirts all day.
I know.
I'm like, why are we boxing up shirts? I don't like doing this.
Yeah.
Help them out.
You know, all buying those shirts too, it definitely helps with
the team
effort. Yeah. It helps the team. you know, definitely if you're fans of the team, you're fans of what the team's got going on, definitely order one, you know.
Yeah, you know, the cool thing about this event is it's a bit of a redo for Baz.
Oh, yeah, like a little reunion, huh? A little.
Well, I mean, it should be pretty good. We're right in his. He should be pretty pumped up to have a little redo, because he's riding that bike and that track where he finished on the podium last year, right?
Okay.
In Portimao, he finished on the podium, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He was the fastest independent at some point too. Gerloff was the fastest independent lap. I looked at all the lap times, and Gerloff was the fastest independent for most of the weekend. And come race day, I think Baz was faster.
So you get, because you're the wild card, you can run your swing arm and your regular stuff. I mean, you're just adding the fuel and the lockout trans thing, right?
No, the bike's completely 100% World Superbike legal.
Oh.
Yeah, all they do is they sticker the swing arm. They look at it, they sticker the swing arm.
Okay.
So, but there is some leniency, let's say, in World Superbike for wild cards. So if you're not exactly the spec, they may let you slide on it.
Okay.
Because you're only in there for one event, let's say, or two or three, whatever the wild cards are. So let's say you had to run a certain something. You're like, I can't get that in time, or there's no way for me to get that in time. I'm only doing one race. I don't want to spend that kind of money or whatever. They'll cut you some slack. If it's not a big performance, I can't show up with a turbocharger, you know, nitrous. You know, they're not going to cut you that kind of slack, but they will cut you slack on, oh, the swing arm isn't in our list of swing arms to buy, but here's a sticker anyway. Yeah. Because, you know, they understand it's about the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's exciting that you guys are going to do that. So what's the plan for the next couple of rounds? You got Jersey and Barber, so you know, anything new, hotness, new? Did you finally put that new swing arm on yet, or?
No, we're actually, crazy thing. Aluminum prices have gone through the roof. They've tripled. So we've gotten so close to the end of the year. I'm like, you know what? Before I finish these guys up, I'm not going to make a bunch of variations.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to finish them up and do some winter testing on them.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll get another variation somewhere before we start the next season. So we're just going to run these out for the remainder of the year. And we're always tweaking electronics. We're always finding new setups that Jake likes or Cameron likes. So looking at some of the stuff that YME does with their World Superbikes setup wise, may want to implement some of that at New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, so setup, electronics, things of that nature.
Anything different on the linkage?
Yeah, we have a couple different linkages, but we've kind of homed in on one, and it's the one we're getting the break track records with. So we're going to stay with that, and we'll take that to World Superbike as well. But we will have another one in our back pocket just in case.
Okay.
We want to try to get a little more grip out of that 23 psi tire. We'll have something in our back pocket. And the World Superbike, we're allowed a different shock. The one they wouldn't let us run here in MotoAmerica, even though it's on the list. The RVP 50.
The Attack Yamaha shock gate.
Yeah, shock gate. Yeah, shocking. Yeah, we can't have it because it's us. But anyway, yeah, we'll be able to run that shock, and so hopefully that'll give us a little bit more grip too.
Okay. Well, Richard, I think we covered a lot here, so I think we should wrap this up. Yeah.
You want to raffle off that bagger hat?
Well, that dude said he's going to send you a label.
Send me a label.
Send him a label.
Stinking up my office right now. I'll have oil on
You
it.
should sign it too.
I feel bad for the guy that gave me the hat, but he was doing it kind of as a prank.
Right.
You know, so prank's back on him.
Yeah. Dude, they're going to give you one of those vests next. Watch.
A bulletproof one?
Yeah, like the vest that has like.
I'm more worried about a stab-proof one.
Right? We'll make the team vests.
You mean the one with all the logos on it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
With a big patch on the back, you know? What do you think? No?
No. No flat bill hats. No Gomer pile hats.
Oh, they're
no
all
hats.
flat bills. They're
No
all
hats.
You have to curl it up on the. I'm not.
Yeah, do the Gomer pile thing, man. What's that?
Yeah, dude, I'm not doing that.
All right.
All right. Well, best of luck to you at New Jersey and Barber, and I guess we'll see you at World Superbike in Portimao.
Yep. All right, man. Later.
Yeah.